Annie, you want to get warm by the fire? Hi everybody, this is Karen. Welcome back to our channel called Our House. And today's video is, I'm going to break it up into two pieces because it's going to be a little bit long. The first part is how to use the McGuffey's readers for your homeschooling or supplemental reading program. How to do it, some tips, some suggestions. Also, the second part video is going to be about book recommendations for kids, what we're reading, what we have read, what our favorites are, what I really wholeheartedly can recommend to you. And so that's going to be part 2 of this video. If you're interested in the McGuffey readers and how to make it work for your homeschooling, then stay tuned. So we have the eclectic primer and the pictorial eclectic primer. Then we have readers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's also the progressive spelling book. So really, you have, with all of this, preschool, kindergarten, learning how to read, spelling curriculum, and a reading curriculum as well, all wrapped into just one set that you can use again and again for any number of kids that you have. Okay, now full disclaimer, I have never actually taught one of my kids how to read using a McGuffey's reader. I like to use 100 easy lessons to read. That's what's worked for me in the past. But you could, if you wanted to, just use this. And I'm gonna recommend another book that will help you if that's the way you want to go. But there isn't much except just the letters, and you're teaching the sounds, and then you get to 3-letter words right away. After we've completed the 100 easy lessons to read, then I like to jump into this because, you know, it only has a few pages of 3-letter words, and then we get to like lessons like this. Okay, so now each lesson, it's so wonderful how it's already broken up. Each lesson has a story and then some vocabulary words. Okay, so once we're at this point and we're in these lessons, I normally just like for them to read the lesson out loud to me. Of course, at this stage, they should be reading out loud to you, so you know that they're really reading it and getting it, pronouncing the words right. And then with these vocabulary words at the bottom, I like for them to read them to me and then work on the ones that they have any trouble with. Then I ask them to spell them to me out loud some days, and then other days I ask them to write it down. And if they get it wrong, I cross it out and I ask them to rewrite the word, 5 times. Just because my kids seem to learn better when they have to write something out a number of times. But you could be really creative here, write the words in shaving cream, or a whiteboard, a white erase board, whatever works for you. So here's the thing. Some people like to wait until all these words are mastered until they move on to the next lesson. So if that's the case for you, then you're gonna go through this book really slow. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for them to master these, you're gonna need something else for them to be reading, obviously. They're gonna be bored reading the same story every day. So what I like to do is we just read through, and every day I would pick words and have those as vocabulary writing practice. Kind of works for writing, a writing curriculum, spelling curriculum, but we don't dwell on it. We move on the next day to the next lesson, reading. And then separately is working on a collective of all the vocabulary words in this book. I'm gonna put a link below in the description. There's a website called Quizlet, and somebody has already done all the work where they have put all the vocabulary words from each reader, into a flashcard set. I really love Quizlet. That's what we use. It's free, and so there's different things that they do. One, they just go through the flashcards. They can hear it. They can click on the speakers to hear the word. And then they do other little things like matching them to their definition, writing the word out to see if they get it right, other kind of exercises for them to learn them, And I think they really do learn them, especially at the end where they have to write the word out and see how many, you can see how many they got right out of that. So we just read through the lessons, and then independently, aside from this, every day is they work on 15 to 20 minutes of those words on Quizlet. However, as we are going through them, I still like to, before the lesson, hey, can you spell this just out loud? Or at the end of the lesson, can you spell this for me? Just to kind of gauge and see where they're at. And then that, depending on the time that day, I'll ask them, aside from the Quizlet, can you write down these words? Or can you write down the words that you missed 5 times? Or can you use these words in a sentence? Whatever you want to do, mix it up so it doesn't get boring. Now, same thing as we get to the, this is the first reader. As you can see, there's a lot more vocabulary words in each lesson. So again, if you wait until they master all these words, you got to give them something else to read in the meantime, which to me just kind of seems, well, you're reading the McGuffey reader, so that's the point of it. So don't worry so much about the vocabulary. Do Quizlet on the side, something that has all the vocabulary words in it, and you just break it up. Maybe do like 10 words at a time with flashcards and do it every day, because you're going to be in this book for a while. I mean, even though it may seem like, oh, we're going to go through this fast. No, you're not. So go ahead and do maybe like 15 words one week, 15 words the next week. Read them, practice writing them. But it's the same thing. But every day there's a lesson and then there's words. So this is like, I'd say like first, second grade, reading a lesson and then working on the vocabulary. I recommend independently. Don't stay stuck on the list until they know every single word to move on to the next lesson, because you got to keep them reading, you got to keep it going. Once we get to the second reader, we have the story, the lesson, and then we have questions as well as vocabulary words. Now we have questions. Why do not cows and horses provide food for winter? How is hay made? How is it put up for winter? Okay, so this in the Robinson books they don't go like these all first and then other books. No, he's kind of got these mixed in with other books. But I think it's fine. You could go from the first to second to third reader if you're just using this as your reading curriculum. It's fine. I mean, that's how it was designed, obviously. And just a side note here, I really love and appreciate the McGuffies. I think they're super unique today. There's not really much anything else like it because of the morals in their stories, and they are Christian. For example, I'll read you a tiny piece here. Jane kept her promise, but it was a long time before she got over her bad habits, when she had learned to fear the Lord and to honor her father and mother. Again, this is talking about like the 10 Commandments, and some of the questions is, you know, to whom did God give them? Who was Moses? You know, things like that. So I really appreciate that a lot. My kids are like, hey mom, I like this book. It talked about this or that, you know, so this is one of the reasons why I really do love the McGuffey books. And we get to even the fourth reader. As you can see, it's pretty thick and the writing is a lot smaller. So, and that's another thing that I appreciate. The first and second, the font is a lot bigger, and then it gets smaller and smaller until it gets about regular size in the fourth reader. And same thing, it's got a lesson. Here's the effects of gambling. Here's a lesson, and this one's a few more pages. So they get longer as you go. And then they have questions, and they also have spell and define. So here's your spelling words, and they want you to spell them and to write the definitions for them. So each lesson is really just a completed lesson. It has everything. It has the reading material, it has the vocabulary, it has the questions, and I think it's just so perfect how it's laid out. In the beginning, it only has vocabulary, and then, you know, as you go on in the books, it adds more workload. Okay, now I'm going to recommend this companion book. It's called The Parent-Teacher Guide for the Original McGuffey Readers. I have the originals. There is like another set of them, which I think is the eclectic reprint or revised. I'm not sure. I think both sets are pretty much the same, except for some minor changes. I have the originals. So this is the original McGuffey Readers. And it's by Ruth Beechick, which I really like her books. So for example, she gives you, if you need a little bit more help, if you need a little bit more guidance, it goes all the way from the decoding stage of reading. So this is the book to help you teach your kids how to read using the McGuffies. And then we have fluency stage of reading, and then we have actual, lessons to go with the readers. So for example, this lesson I'm about to read is for the third reader. I think this is 32. So it says here, students should recognize how the poet used ideas from Isaiah 52 for writing this poem. See how many correspondences they can find between the scripture and the poem. Have them tell or write in their own words what each stanza means. Writing. Choose a Bible verse you like and write the meaning as a poem. So what this book does is it gives you just a little bit more guidance with each lesson. See, I feel like you can kind of do your own thing with the lessons, whatever you want to do. For this particular lesson, she thought it would be a good idea to write about the poem, write your own poem. This is just a good companion if you need more guidance, more insight into the authors, into the poems, where it correlates with the Bible, and have the kids kind of tie that into with maybe their Bible time, with their school time. This book will help you just kind of tie it all together. And again, if you want to teach them how to read with the McGuffey cards, with the McGuffey books, then you would want to use this book as well. You could teach your kid how to read for free. And I mean, this book is kind of doing it, besides the McGuffey readers, of course, but making your own flashcards, actually teaching them decoding and how to sound out and how to blend and how to read. It's really very simple. As parents, we might make it complicated. It can be overwhelming because there's just so many programs out there, and you have to understand they're trying to make a profit. They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to make you feel like you absolutely need this in order to teach your kid how to read, and all these readers and things like that, when really you don't. But whatever makes your life easier, whatever works for you, whatever takes the stress off of you, obviously that's a good thing. Just know that there are options, and you don't have to spend a lot of money in the early ages. In the first grade, kindergarten, you do not need to be spending $500 or $600 on these complete packages. Again, if you want to, and that makes your life easier, hey, but I'm telling the moms that can't afford it, that are overwhelmed by it, you don't need all of that, and you don't have to spend that much. This set I bought for $20, the whole set, and I think this book was like maybe $5 or $6 on Amazon. And that's it. You got a reading curriculum, you got spelling curriculum, reading comprehension, writing, you got it all. So I hope that was useful to you. Now for me, doing the Robinson curriculum, I follow the book list, and when we are on that book, what I do is just that. We read the lesson, I ask them the questions out loud, and because they do so much writing already, they write an essay a day, but sometimes I will say, hey, write these vocabulary words out for me, or we'll do it electronically on Quizlet for sure. Every day we work on some vocabulary, but as far as the McGuffey vocabulary, I will just ask them to spell it out to me, and then sometimes I'll tell them, hey, you need to practice writing this word 5 times in addition to their Quizlet time with their vocabulary, just because sometimes they need a little bit more practice, and if the day allows for it, then we do that. Something else that I want to talk about the McGuffey readers is that there is an awesome YouTube channel that goes through each lesson of each book. So 2 ways you can use this for your benefit. Number 1, let's say it's a bad day and you just can't do the lesson with your child. Well, you could play it for them. Or number 2 is for reinforcement purposes. Let's say you did the lesson with them, but you just kind of want to reinforce it for them a little bit more. Play the lesson for them. This is great for like doctor's office visits, if you're waiting inside the office already, inside the room. There's just so many possibilities to use these videos. So I will put a link to that playlist, to that channel in the description below. And also I'll put a card in the video as well. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Let's see if we can get this to 25 thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more videos on kids books. I have a whole lot more in mind. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.